Did you guys know the Audi A8 was the bargain RS7? Well, we're going to talk about that today on this episode of ModStars. What's going on, everybody? I'm Z. Welcome back to another episode of ModStars. If you haven't yet, be sure to like, subscribe to the channel, watch all of our previous videos. You can even start from the beginning because there aren't that many out there right now. So I highly recommend you do that. If not, just watch the previous video. Today, we're going to talk about the Audi A8 because it's pretty much, well, the sheep's clothing of the RS7, in my opinion. So we're going to talk about specifically the D4 series, which ranges from 2009 to 2018. And from what I've seen price-wise, they go for anywhere about $30,000 to $48,000 right now. Weight, depending on the year you get, could be anywhere from 4,453 pounds to 4,673 pounds. Now, power, we're talking 414 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque to 450 horsepower and 444 pound-feet of torque. You might be thinking, oh, hey, like, let's get the one with the most horsepower. But remember, weight is a factor in that as well. So they needed it to be a little more, familiar to the previous models. All-wheel drive quattro system, of course, and an 8-speed automatic transmission. 0 to 60 is in 4.2 seconds, and it runs a 12.5 in a quarter mile. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this car up is because, well, I'll even I'll even put a link in the description below. There was an A8 at Verona drag strip. It's an 8th mile track in California, in Southern California. And it ran against a Tesla Plaid Model S and stayed on the door, like door-to-door runs, pretty much, of this Tesla until the end of the track. It probably got beat by like a bumper. And I'll mention some of those mods that were in there later on in this video. So that's just something that was just a little eye-opening for me, that, Tesla Plaids are kind of trendy, and Teslas are often lined up against things that aren't in the same category as them to make them look a little bit quicker than what they are. Not saying they aren't quick for what they are, but I'm just saying if you got to compare something, make sure it's the same fruit. But we'll talk about that in another video. Okay, common problems. Like any car, there's those quirks and issues. Audis are known for having oil consumption problems. In this case, and for the 4-liter twin-turbo V8s, there's a problem with oil starvation. And basically, if I understand this correctly, there is a screen, oil screen, for example, even for the turbos, that get clogged up, and it will cause the turbos to fail and they build up too much heat. The screens can be replaced. And another issue is there's an air separator for the oil and air, and that would get clogged as well through certain lines. And what GMP Performance, for example, does is they'll relocate those lines to a safer place and have a serviceable filter as well. Now, I did reach out to them. I haven't heard back on how much that costs, but it is a service that they provide. If you guys have a chance and you have this car or want to get one, I would reach out to them, ask them, or another shop maybe in your area that can do it. Get a quote, call them, email them, whatever. But that is, out of all the common problems, that is the biggest issue in my opinion, because it's either you pay to get the lines relocated or you pay for 2 more turbos and then some if the internals of the turbos get into the engine somehow, and then you have a whole nother problem. So there's that. Another common issue is leaking output shaft seal, and that seal itself goes for about $56. Then the thermostat housing could leak. Now, from 2013 to 2014, there's a recall where you would replace the O-ring, and you do an ECM update as well. And the O-ring, which causes the leaking housing, honestly, it's about like $3 or so. Another thermostat is like $260. You can find these on FCP Euro or ECS tuning. Some cases it's a water pump deal. And Silly Rabbit, could you not name of the company? Silly Rabbit has a water pump that's upgraded water pump for about $995. It also is used in motorsport application, so it flows like 50% better than the original water pump. Going back to the oil circulating issues, oil starvation issues, there's two more points I wanted to add on. It is the oil separator that separates oil and air from each other when it goes through the engine, and the crankcase vent valve. Two other things that could cause a problem in the oiling system, two other things that could potentially leak. Mainly the crankcase vent valve does. But again, these issues are common enough to get your attention across Audis, period. But here's a solution to that. So ECS Tuning does have a vent valve replacement for about $180, and they also have oil separators that range from $180 to $440, which they claim fits the A8. So I'm also just, again, kind of curious if the valves, not saying that it needs to be done, but if the valves are hoses, for example, that's ultimately what the vent valve is like a hose. If certain things are made out of a certain material, maybe like the silicone hoses like you'd use for upgraded intakes and radiator piping with clamps, for example, versus the other materials, maybe aluminum or things like that, would they be cheaper and easier to install? Maybe they could work a little bit better longevity wise versus a OEM grade part if they're known to fail. Or other hoses for the cooling and oiling systems, for that matter. I don't see there being many aftermarket options for that for Audis, but I mean, if anybody were to want to get into the Audi game or any type of aftermarket vehicle, that would be a very simple way to do that. And just test the products on certain cars. But, well, again, stuff for another video, but for anybody who wants to give it a shot, there's one way to do it. We're going to get into mods in a minute. I'm going to finish up with the suspension repairs as well. So the bushings, of course, could fail and cause a lot of squeaking or delayed response in suspension. So PowerFlex has bushings for just about anything from trailing arms to sway bar bushings. The bushings are about 80% stiffer than factory. And for example, the trailing arm bushings go for about $106 and the sway bar bushings go for $109. 034 Motorsports has sway bar end links that are made out of aluminum versus the rubber ones because they degrade. They even have adjustable ones, and they both go for $95 if you want to get adjustable or not. So that's pretty cool. All right, now that we got the common repairs out of the way for the engine and suspension stuff, which would needed to be replaced or potentially upgraded anyways, outside of air suspension, because that's kind of a pricey thing in itself. But you can just do like coilover swap or something of the sort for that, or a different air ride kit. Anyways, we're gonna get into mods now. Of course, I am not responsible for anything you do or don't do. Check your local laws. You make your bed, you sleep in it. If things work out for you, great. If the video helps you, great. If it doesn't, I don't know what to tell you. Other than go back to episode 1, do your research, which is what I'm doing for you in a way. So, I can't do everything, but this is what I can do to help. That being said, we're going to get into simple mods and how important these are for the A8 versus getting an RS7 in comparison. Let's go. Okay, so starting out, of course, with the intake and exhaust. Silly Rabbit, I know, silly name, no pun intended, has cold air intakes for $845. Told you guys, mods for this car is going to be a little bit more pricey, but still on somewhat of a budget. JHM has the downpipe and exhaust package. For the Race Cat version of this, it's $2,775. These components without the Race Cats is $2,500. And APR, of course, it's like the go-to tuning company for Volkswagen Group for now. For Audi, Porsche, Volkswagen, Lamborghini, I believe Fiat, and there's another company I can't think of right now, but pretty much all of those. They have the APR tune, APR plus to 91 octane. On APR's website, there's an option where you can show horsepower to the crank and to the wheels, and that's pretty cool. So thank you, APR, for doing that. Because oftentimes, and again, it'll be in another video, people lie about their power numbers or assume that the power that's advertised on products is what they're going to make to the wheels, and that is very seldom the case. So, that being said, APR Stage 1, 91 octane, will get you 456 horsepower and 543 foot-pounds of torque, and that's about $800, and it's not bad, and I'll explain why it's not bad later. JHM also has turbo outlet and throttle body inlet hoses, kind of like the hoses we mentioned earlier, that are $50 to $60 a pair, and that's pretty good price. I recommend those not just from a durability standpoint, but maybe it might even help with cooling even. I'm not sure. So I could not at this time find an intercooler that's, worth it. As far as I get it, like I said, the budget's different on the car, but I still want to be budget conscious, where most of the money you spend would go towards repairs, and the rest of the stuff is just fun stuff. And those repairs, sorry, I can't talk, are basically as needed. So, just to remind you guys, when you get any car, do research, do an inspection, see what needs to be done on the car, all that stuff. Take care of those problems first, have a strong foundation, and then do the fun stuff. So with 3 mods, more so like 4, the intakes, according to the GMP website anyway, will bump you up another like 30 horsepower, where the downpipes and exhaust will crank it up until they're 60. And of course the numbers vary, but to put that in perspective, you're right at 546 horsepower, right under 550, which is pretty much close to what the RS7 is advertised running on paper. And it wouldn't be running that much power to the wheels. And with these mods, you would, if not very close to it. Now, the appeal behind this is like, yes, RS7s are, first gens anyway, are pretty much, well, they're just like 10 grand more, roughly, than an A8. I've seen them ranging from as low as $42,000 to as high as $75,000 for the RS7. I kid you not, and we'll make a separate video about that. So you might ask, like, well, why get the A8? Well, why not? I mean, it's cheaper, and it's very under the radar. And here's another thing. You have the comfort and space that you don't get in the RS7. You have a full-size car. You have a full-size trunk. RS7 doesn't have that. Yeah, it might be sporty and a bit more aggressive to drive, but it's an Audi as well, a luxury brand. So who's going to push the rowdiness every day? There's something about subtlety and comfort that a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, I'd say a lot of young people don't really appreciate. You see everyone driving around loud and obnoxious and wreaking havoc in many ways, but the subtlety and comfort of a car that can pretty much take you anywhere, make you feel like you're flying first class, but you have the speed when you want it or need it, to the athletic counterpart. It's more of a complete package. You have the speed, you have the performance, and you have the luxury too. It's like a well-rounded athlete. A good athlete can do just about anything very well, to put it in perspective. So there's one more thing I forgot. So going back to the A8 that raced at Tesla, people asked, what was done to the car. And this is where the bargain thing gets interesting. So he said that it was upgraded. Well, he upgraded the car with S8 turbos and intakes and a tune. That would bump you up to the 5-something or more. With the torque and everything, it would be a little bit different too. So I was trying to find, at least the turbos are easy to find. I found some refurbished ones on eBay for about $1,400. It's a lot cheaper, actually $1,000 cheaper than taking the stock S8 or A8 turbos that you already have and upgrading those. And then, tuning that with your other mods will probably net you closer to 600, if not at 600 at that point. I couldn't find the intakes, but then again, would you need them if you're going, the aftermarket ones? And intercoolers, I'm not sure if those are bigger or not. I imagine they are too. But again, those are things I couldn't find. If you could find those components, you'd probably get them at a bargain. Honestly, somebody would probably give them away to you, minus the turbos. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. It's like one of those things, like, if you could, should you? Because the power is already there, and the turbos are smaller in the A8. With the mods that you have, will help those turbos spool up even quicker versus the S8 or the RS7 turbos. So again, there's a trade-off, isn't it? More power, either way. So one setup is greater power than the other, but one has better acceleration for, well, I say acceleration loosely, but turbo response. And in the name of the game of drag racing, to a certain extent, acceleration is the key to that. So again, something to think about. Now, I didn't mean to get all poetic there, but it's really why this channel started, to show cars that are not the most popular, especially with the sleeper series, starting off with it on this channel. Show cars that are not so popular, and also improving on them in a complete manner. A lot of people don't take the complete approach. They'll spend so much money on power for the engine, not really focus on the transmission. And if they do, they definitely don't focus on suspension or brakes for that matter. It's like bicycle brakes compared to what they had with the power before. And if anything, it's just power and tires, and that's it. No. So just complete. And complete can be something different to everybody. I understand that. But generally, it's something that you could use every single day. And it's what you need and more as far as a vehicle goes, or a goal for that vehicle. I digress. That is it for this video. Do you have an A8? Do you want one? If you have one, I think it's worth modding. If you don't have one, you want an Audi, I still think it's worth getting. The 4-liter turbo is very underrated. The RS7, the S8 as well. The A8 is a lot cheaper than the S8, trust me. All those cars are great, but you can literally have your cake and eat it too with the A8. One could argue you could do it with the other Audis, but not for the same price point. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed. This may or may not be the last Sleeper Series episode. I'll have to find other cars, and if I can't, then I can't. Maybe I'll go on to trucks. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.